I guess we'll kind of just jump right in and start with this. It's been, or once this airs, it will have been 3 years since Arkansas Learns was signed into law. So just overall, what would you say this law has accomplished?
Well, there's so much to celebrate with the signing and implementation of Arkansas Learns. When I think about everything that we've accomplished, I always kind of think about the three different major impact areas, everything from early learning to K-12 and setting students up for post-secondary success beyond high school. But when I look at early learning, making sure that every provider has access to a local lead that's in their community, every single county is covered. We're making sure that every student and family that wants to participate in high quality early child care programs have an opportunity to do so, and making sure that we improve quality so that we're seeing more students come to kindergarten ready to learn. In the K-12 space, we know we've really focused on those third grade reading levels. We've added literacy coaches to some of our most struggling schools. We have almost 25,000 students participate in high impact tutoring programs in those K-1-2 areas. And we know that more students are going to be ready to demonstrate mastery at the third grade. We know that a one-size-fits-all approach doesn't meet the needs of all students and families, so we've expanded career and technical education across every single high school to make sure that every student is able to graduate, ready to be enlisted, enrolled, and employed. And most importantly, we've empowered families and parents to find the right educational environment that works best for their child. In fact, almost 44,000 parents are participating in some sort of school choice program this year.
So I want to ask in more detail about a lot of the things you just mentioned, and I'll start with the third grade reading levels. If I'm not mistaken, this is kind of the first year that those new standards to pass the third grade are going to be in place. And from things you've said, it seems like there's a real possibility that maybe some kids could not progress or they could not meet those levels. So why is this such a priority for you? And if people feel those levels are too strict, what would you say to that?
Yeah, so what I would say is we know third grade is really an important grade in a child's kind of continuum for learning. So we like to say kind of in K1, 2, and 3, students are learning how to read. And then when you get in third, fourth, fifth, and beyond, students are reading to learn. And if you don't have that strong foundation, you're going to struggle on later grades. If you're not able to read, it's hard for you to succeed. So we need to make sure that every student is able to read at or above grade level by third grade. Our goal is to get to 90 to 100% of our third graders reading at or above grade level. And I feel like we can with the right support in place. But a lot of people say that this is a third grade retention policy, but it's really about a promotion policy. The goal is not to retain every child that's at risk. Is to identify at an early grade. So these third graders were in kindergarten when Arkansas Learns was signed into law. To identify at an early age, are you getting the right interventions and support you need? We know that early intervention works. And what this Arkansas Learns part does around third grade promotion is it requires that if a student's not able to demonstrate that they can read on grade level, the school, the teacher, the school counselor, the parents come together and write a literacy plan. Retention is not new to Arkansas. We retained over 10,000 students across the state in Arkansas last year through grades kindergarten through 12th. What this is ensuring that is if a third grader is not ready for fourth grade, when they get to that fourth grade, do they have access to a high quality teacher, a literacy plan that's put into place, and a 90-minute uninterrupted reading block?
Speaking of teachers, I know that raising minimum teacher salaries to $50,000 was a huge priority of the Learns Act, but obviously that money had to come from somewhere. So have there been any difficulties or any challenges in implementing that?
Well, if there's anything that we know in education, the research is clear. The one greatest predictor in improving student learning is the adult standing in front of that room, which is their classroom teacher. So we want to recruit, retain, and recognize the best of the best. So we went from bottom 5 in the nation in starting teacher salaries to top 5 overnight. And in fact, when adjusted for cost of living, some rank us as number 1. So that's step number 1 is we want to get good teachers and give them a competitive salary, but then keep investing in those teachers so that they stay. Are they getting access to coaching? Are they participating in high quality professional development? Our teacher merit pay program that's part of Learns recognized over 4,000 teachers alone that are getting learning gains above and beyond. And those bonuses that come out annually, some of them are up to $10,000. So we know that these teachers deserve it. I wish we could do more, but we're starting to make those right investments and we're seeing that pay off.
Yeah, and I also definitely want to ask, you mentioned that more and more people are participating in school choice programs, but some criticize those, as you know, even though more and more parents continue to participate and more kids continue to participate. People will say things like, this EFA program, it's taking money that struggling public schools need and it's going to private school tuition or other things like that. So how would you kind of respond to that? And is this program a good use of money as it continues to grow?
What we know is a one-size-fits-all approach doesn't work for all students and families, in that when we can create choice opportunities for students and families, they can find the educational environment that works best for them so that they can thrive. This isn't about where the pots of money are coming. We go through a process every single year. This is not new to Arkansas, called adequacy. The legislature looks at the budgets and dollar amounts that should be allocated to support and fund public schools and come up with a per student categorical that every student in every district qualifies for. That process didn't stop. In fact, it was funded at a higher level this year, percentage-wise, over previous years at a much higher percentage. Historically, it's been about a 2% increase. This past school year, it was almost 5%. So the public schools are fully funded based on the process that's been in law for decades in this state. Nobody's going underfunded. It's a misnomer. That's not true. And so when you start talking about the public schools are being underfunded, we're following the adequacy process that's already current in the law. The pot of money and dollars to fund students that are participating in educational freedom accounts comes from a separate part of the budget. So we need to make sure all students and families get the opportunity to be in an educational environment that works best for them. And that's what we're able to do with Arkansas Learns.
So I'll ask this. I know that you and the governor have been big on removing distractions in the classroom like cell phones. I know we're still pretty early into the Bell-to-Bell No Cell Act, but how would you say that's been going so far?
Well, when we think about Bell-to-Bell No Cell, I talk to principals and superintendents and teachers and parents all over the state. When I look at like elementary schools, kindergarten through 5th grade, that's saying we're implementing no cell phone policies, not a whole lot of pushback from the students and the teachers, never really an issue. But when you start getting in the secondary grade levels, it's been a little bit different, because that's when we're starting to see more students have cell phones. And so we had to work with students, families, and teachers. But overall, the response we get from teachers is they wish we would have done this decades ago. They feel like they're free to teach. Students are engaged. They're free from distractions. The school districts are doing a phenomenal job at implementing this policy, and it's great, because we've got to get back to basics in education and take these distractions out of our classrooms so that our students can focus on high quality learning.
But I'm curious about school and district letter grades. I know I've done stories on that, and you all have been big about being transparent with those. For those schools and those districts rated F, what I'm curious about is how much of the responsibility for improving that falls on you all at the state level versus how much of that falls on that school or that district, and how does that kind of break down?
So I think it's really a partnership, right? We are going to eliminate failure. We have made a commitment to the state and to the state board, and we should not have failing school districts. That's not fair to the community. It's not fair to the students. It's not fair to those families. So when we look at a school district that's struggling, we don't want it to be punitive. We want it to be an opportunity to open up the doors into the classroom and work with the district side by side to come up with a plan that we know if we implement will help improve learning, whether it's access to different curriculums, whether it's professional development for teachers or coaching. How do we make sure that every student has access to the best teacher than I've ever had? And that's what this commitment's about. So it's a partnership with the school district, their educational cooperative, and the state to say, let's come together with a plan and let's find the right resources we need to implement that plan so that we can eliminate failure.
what's something, whether it's something that you all have already started on or something that you want to address in the future, I want to know what you hear from the people in the school. So when you talk to teachers or school administration, what is kind of the number one thing, or maybe there's multiple, that they want you all to focus on going forwards?
Well, it's pretty simple, like when we talk about improving teaching and learning. So we just spent the last couple of years building out a high quality accountability system where we now have assessments that are aligned to standards, and we've been able to implement a unified coordinated progress monitoring system, kindergarten through high school, so teachers have access to real information around student performance in the school year. So instead of waiting till the summer and telling teachers this is how kids are doing, we're able to tell them in real time how well their students are performing. So what we're hearing now from teachers is, how do I get more resources when I know that a student may need to be accelerated or remediated? How do we have access to different curriculums and make sure that we're able to tailor instruction to their specific needs? One of the things that we constantly are starting to engage with teachers and leaders about is the role of AI. You know, what is artificial intelligence going to do with planning for the teacher, the role of the student? So they're asking for professional development and guidance so that we can use these amazing tools to make the learning experience better.
Is there anything else that you want to prioritize in the future that we didn't mention with that last question?
So I think one of the next goals that we've been working with our state leaders as well is improving access to high quality early learning environments. We've been working with our partners at the federal level to look at federally supported programs. We're also looking at our state programs to see, are we funding those at the right level? Do we have the right requirements? When we look at the brain development research that shows us almost 90% of a child's brain development happens before they enter kindergarten, how are we supporting those learning environments? And as we move forward, I think we're going to constantly ask ourselves those questions on investing in those educators and those programs that serve our students from birth to 5. So we were fortunate that there's some competitive grants that became available. We applied for a preschool development grant to help answer some of those questions and was awarded, I want to say it was around $6 million to support that work. But then also, when we get those students in kindergarten, that K-1-2 space, we want to really make sure that students, even in rural parts of Arkansas, have access to high-impact tutoring, and that those teachers have access to literacy coaches. So we were able to write some competitive grants to do that and got almost $20 million to really target learning environments in rural Arkansas. So as we continue to keep looking forward and moving in this space, it's really about making sure that every child has access and quality. How are we setting up a system so that everybody graduates ready to be enlisted, enrolled, or employed? I
just thought of one more, sort of related, and you've touched on it, but related back to those third grade reading levels. Since this new system and these new standards are going into place this year, for kids who are already past the third grade, who maybe didn't have those standards and maybe they are a bit behind grade level, how do you kind of catch them back up? What's your plan for those who are past that age now who didn't have this system?
Yeah, so prior to Learns, we would just pass kids through the system whether they're ready to learn or not. And we knew that that wasn't going to be the best pathway or trajectory for each of these students. So we put some good interventions in place at those early intervention levels. But we also know the science of reading tells us kids, even that as they progress and get older, 4th, 5th, 6th, 7th, 8th, and 9th grade, if they have gaps in their learning on some of those foundational years in explicit instruction and phonics, phonemic awareness, vocabulary fluency, and comprehension, those buckets can be filled. But those students need direct intervention and support. So we were able to work with our literacy coaches to build intervention programs to target those students to fill those gaps. We're not going to leave them behind. We're going to proactively search these students out and support those teachers and those students to fill those gaps so that they can be successful readers.